What's going on, everybody? This is Justin with Grinded Out Fishing. Today what I'm going to show you is how to read a tide chart and how to determine, based on your location, when the tide should be moving in or out, based off of the buoy that you're looking at and how far it is from that location. So what we're going to do is just go to, I live down here in Texas, so we'll go, I like to use this Tides4fishing for tide predictions, and then what you can use for actual, what the tide is actually doing compared to the prediction is the NOAA or NOAA website. It will give you a lot of good information there, but for predictions, I like to use this one. We'll go down here to Texas. Where's it at? Oops. And we are going to go down to Freeport and look at the tides. Okay. And so what this is showing you, it's showing the tide movement, and then these little fish here are supposed to be when you're more likely to catch fish. They're majors and minors. Based on like moon phases and stuff. But anyway, so say for instance, right here at 5:12 a.m. this shows high tide, then the tide should start going out, and it'll go out till 12:09 p.m. So what we're gonna look at is, say that you go out fishing in the morning, and the spot you want to fish is, for example, and just so I can explain this easily, say it's roughly 6 miles from the buoy. Where I learned this from was a wise old man once told me that the tide travels at about 6 miles an hour. So let's pull it up. So remember that high tide is at 5:12 a.m. and then the tide it'll slack up where it doesn't really move, and then it'll start going out. So let's look at it. So if you look here, this is the Freeport jetty, and this is the buoy that sends information to the website, so you can tell what the tide's actually doing, the NOAA website. So what you can do on Google Earth, which is pretty cool, is you can use this little measuring device, click on the buoy. I'm going to zoom out so you can see, and hold on. Okay, there we go. And so you'll use it to track all the way to your fishing spot. And so right here at this cut, it's roughly 6.3 miles. So what that means is that it will be high tide at this buoy at 5:12 a.m. roughly. So what that means is, at this point here, it won't be high tide till around 6:12 a.m. So if the tide starts moving, say at like 5:30 or 5:45, and starts coming out, then at this spot, it will start coming out at roughly 6:30, 6:45. And so for when the tide's coming in, it's the same scenario. And this is not foolproof where it's like, exactly 6 miles from the buoy, it's going to start moving an hour later. But because based on your wind conditions and all that kind of stuff, and even the moon, it will affect it. And it can affect it tremendously sometimes, especially the wind. But when the wind's the normal, 10 to 15 miles an hour, you can use that formula, and it will be roughly 1 hour behind. And so, for example, what I mean by this is, if you have an outgoing tide that coincides with a northwest wind, what that's going to do is accelerate the speed of the tide. And what it can also do is it can make the tide start ripping out, and at your low tide point, it can keep going out further than it was predicted. And something to keep in mind, like if you go into a shallow area and the tide starts ripping out on you, if you don't know the area very well, you may want to leave sooner than later because you don't want to get stuck back in a shallow area. If there's a shallow spot on the way out that you didn't know was there because you couldn't tell because the water was higher, then you might be in a bind and get stuck back there. So it's just something to be conscious of. And the same goes for an incoming tide. When you have an incoming tide and the wind is blowing out of the east, it will push the water up further into the grass, and the tide will keep on coming in for longer than predicted. So that's just something to keep in mind. Well, I guess that's going to do it. If you like this video, drop a like. It's free. Drop a comment below if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.